this is question 9 from our practice test. The directions say find all zeros for the given polynomial function. So we're going to set this equal to 0. So we have 0 equals x to the third minus 2x squared plus 2x. And we are hopeful in this situation that we can factor, and there is a common factor to all of the terms. It is x. And so I have x squared minus 2x plus 2. And the next thing that we want to do is try to factor. So I have x squared minus 2x plus 2. I want to see if I can factor that again. So I am looking for two numbers that multiply together that give me 2 and added together give me negative 2. And at first we might think that there is something, but there's actually not. 1 times 2 is 2, but then added together is positive 3. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2, but added together is negative 3. So there are no numbers. So we are going to have to use the quadratic, and that is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, we are only focusing on this part right here, okay? We already have x, okay? We've already kind of pulled x out, and we can decide that x equals 0. I'm focusing on the quadratic part of this, the x squared minus 2x plus 2. So my a value here is positive 1. My b value here is negative 2. And my c value here is positive 2. So I have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of b, which is negative 2 squared, minus 4 times a times c. And all of that is over 2 times a. Okay? And now we are going to do some simplifying. I just used the quadratic formula. It would have been fine if you had used completing the square. Completing the square would have worked fine too. I just chose to use the quadratic formula. So negative 2 is positive 2 plus or minus the square root. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. And I am subtracting 4 times 1 times 2. So that is 4 minus 8, and all of that is over 2. So I have 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 over 2. And I hope you're able to identify, and I'm going to kind of go right up here, I hope you're able to identify that the square root of negative 4, is going to be 2i. Okay, so the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of negative 1 is I. And all of this is over 2. Okay, that can be simplified further. I'm going to have 2 over 2 plus or minus 2i over 2. So my final answer here is 1 plus or minus I. Now, 1 plus I and 1 minus I are two of the solutions. Don't forget this x, okay? We factored out an x, so we need to set that x equal to 0. And when we set that x equal to 0, we realize that 0 is also one of our solutions. So 1 plus I, 1 minus I, and 0 are our solutions to this polynomial. Okay? Now, for number 10 reads, find a polynomial of degree 3 if negative 3i and positive 1 are zeros. So I am told that negative 3i is a 0, and I'm told that positive 1 is a 0. Now, positive 1 is a rational 0, so it doesn't have to have a partner. Negative 1 is not automatically one of the solutions. However, negative 3i is a complex, and it always has to have its opposite, okay? Anytime we have complex, that means an I is involved, or we have a square root, that means its conjugate has to be included in the answer. So here I've got negative 3i, positive 3i, and 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those in factor form. Negative 3i is x plus 3i. Positive 3i, the factor form, is x minus 3i. And 1, the factored form, is x minus 1. Now, anytime I'm doing this, I'm always going to multiply these two together first. They are conjugates, which means those middle terms are going to cancel out. You don't want to multiply x minus 3i times x minus 1. You get a whole bunch of stuff, and it's icky, and then you got to multiply it times x plus 3i. So you always want to multiply the conjugates together first. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3i is negative 3ix. 3i times x is positive 3ix. Then I have 3i times negative 3i. That is negative 3i squared. Okay? Our middle terms cancel out, so I'm left with x squared minus 3. Now that I squared becomes negative 1. Okay, so I end up with x squared plus 3. That is I plus 3i, x plus 3i, and x minus 3i multiplied together. Now I've got to go back and get this one, x minus 1. So now I'm going to do x squared plus 3 times x minus 1. X squared times x is x to the third. X squared times negative 1 is negative 1x squared. 3 times x is 3x. Oh, I made a mistake. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. We got to go all the way back. I made a mistake. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. We got to go back to this. Okay, x times x is x squared. X times negative 3i is minus 3ix. 3i times x is positive 3ix. Now, positive 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. I times I is I squared. Sorry about that. Okay? Now, we haven't forgotten about this x minus 1. I got to come back to that. But let me clean this up first. So now I've got x squared minus 9, and I squared is negative 1. So that gives me x squared plus 9. Okay? What happened was I got so focused on that I squared that I forgot about the 3 times the negative 3. Now I can do x squared plus 9 and x minus 1. Okay? X squared times x is x to the third. X squared times negative 1 is minus x squared. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. Okay, so my final answer to this is f of x equals x to the third minus x squared plus 9x minus 9. Okay.